Hi, everybody, and welcome to Strategic Public Relations, Internet Public Relations, SIP. And this is the follow-up video that I talked to you about. I got to tell you, we've had all sorts of issues, some related to Hurricane Irma and being able to catch back up after being shut down for what amounted to almost 2 weeks, preparation and a week of the storm cleanup. Then Apple had all these updates come through for new operating systems, and different manufacturers are starting to upgrade their applications. So if you decide not to update the OS or the iOS, you have issues. And I couldn't get the screen recording to work. It's been interesting. So this video was actually supposed to have been recorded on Friday, but we couldn't finish Friday's video until Saturday, so hence this video today on Sunday. So sorry for the lateness, but I think I've got some good information for you. We're going to go over to the screen because I want to lay out the strategic context. Strategic context of the organization. And we're going to cover 5 elements. We're going to cover the mission. We're going to cover the vision. We're going to cover the critical success factors. We're going to cover the culture and the values. So let's begin by taking a look at the organization, and we're going to use the representation of a person as the organization. And at point A, which can also be called the current state or the as is, but this is really where we get to talk about the mission. And what we want to be able to do when we talk about the mission of the company, we want to be able to answer 3 questions. Why does the organization exist today? For whom do they exist? And to what extent? So those 3 questions comprise the mission of the company. And I want to give you an example of a mission statement. We're going to use Nike. Nike has an 11-word mission statement. Bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Let's break this down. Why does Nike exist? To bring inspiration and innovation. To whom? To every athlete. To what extent? In the entire world. So you can have elaborate mission statements, or you can have much, much tighter mission statements. Every Disney cast member, I don't know if it still happens, but back in the day, every cast member was given a little brochure that went through and really explained the strategic context of the organization. I happen to be part of the team that helped work on this, develop it, and then continue to expand its usage throughout my tenure at the Walt Disney Company. So let's talk about and this is actually the Walt Disney World Company. The Walt Disney Company is an enterprise and has many different divisions and campuses. The Walt Disney World Resort is the single largest employer in the United States, and it is the largest of the different organizations within the Walt Disney Company. In fact, it's not a full division because underneath the Walt Disney Company, you then have the Theme Park and Resorts division. And then under Theme Parks and Resorts, you have the Walt Disney World Company. So it's a very complicated org structure, but and that's how this is situated within that. But I wanted you to hear some examples. So, from a mission statement, our commitment, our mission, as Disney cast members, we are reminded daily that we work for a company whose products hold very special meaning for millions of people throughout the world. We ourselves acknowledge that we joined Disney in part because of the unique appeal that the Disney name has for each of us. As symbolized by wearing our Disney name tag, we take great pride in knowing that we represent a great legacy and continuing success story. I talked in the last video about the attractiveness of the brand and what it meant to people to come to work below industry wage levels. So you can see how that's built into the actual mission of the organization. Well, once we understand the mission, then the next thing we want to do is to understand the vision. And we're going to draw another person to represent a future state, and that's what we're going to call this, future. And this is also can be called the to be. Now, the vision is very similar, but it's just future oriented. So why are they existing in the future, for whom, and to what extent? A lot of times a company will encapsulate the vision with a tagline or a slogan. Now, think about Nike for a moment, and can you give me what their vision or their tagline is? Come on, just do it. You can do it. Yeah, it's just do it. So just do it, what they're saying is that in the future, you don't need to think about what you're doing in terms of sports. You're going to have everything you need because Nike's going to have provided it for you. And you can just go out and do it. That's the vision that Nike is striving for, a world where everybody has athletic ability, where everybody has Nike gear to be able to capitalize on their athletic ability. Let's use the Walt Disney Company again to give you another example of vision. Our common vision. We will deliver magical and memorable entertainment experiences which create a sense of joy and wonderment for our guests and consistently exceed their expectations. We will continue to be recognized globally as the premier entertainment and hospitality organization by mobilizing our team spirit to perfect our talents and abilities and to perpetuate our rich Disney legacy. This will be evident to our guests, fellow cast members, shareholders, and community and business partners through our words and deeds. That almost sounds like a list of stakeholders, doesn't it? So there you have the Disney vision. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, how do you get from your mission statement to your vision? Well, those are the initiatives, the projects, the tasks that the company engages in order to be moving forward. Now, not all tasks, not all projects are strategic in nature. It's strategic in nature if we believe that it is moving the needle from where we are today to where we want to be, or to, let's look at this. We'll draw a line, and this is a continuum. This line is a continuum. So if it's moving us from point A to maybe point A and a half, that works. Then it's strategic. Or if it's moving us all the way over to point B, then that's strategic as well. These projects and initiatives, some people just call them strategies. Other people will call them the critical success factors that the organization needs to engage in to achieve their vision, or the CSFSs. Well, next we want to talk about because we're going to wrap all this, and how does all this happen? Well, it happens against the backdrop of the culture of the organization and the values of the organization. And the values of the organization is actually where our discussion with regard to ethics comes into play. Remember, ethics is the Greeks looked at ethics as that moment when they were able to stand aside, stop what they were doing, and say, what is the good? What do we need to understand to be able to focus on the good things? Well, the good obviously then says that there are some things that are bad, and that's where morals comes into play. It differentiates what's good and what's bad. And values take a look at the things that we say are good and for our organization, for our situatedness, how do we prioritize those? Well, let me tell you, for the Walt Disney World Company, there are 7 values that are very important. They are honesty, integrity, respect, courage, openness, diversity, and balance. Let me give you just 2. Respect. We treat others with care and consideration. Courage. We pursue our beliefs with strength and perseverance. And there's a little bit more for each of those as well, but that gives you a feel for what the values are. Culture is something that leadership establishes along using the values in order to create a culture, a way, an experience that the organization performs in. And at Disney, let me read this to you. We have a rich heritage, tradition, quality standards, and values, which we believe are critical factors, leads back to those critical success factors, to our success. This foundation, as well as certain traits and behaviors, create a unique environment which we call the Disney culture. We will seek to understand and cultivate our culture and challenge ourselves to model the behavior that it represents. So in order to define this culture, let me share with you some of these further definitions. We are committed to a friendly and informal work environment, first name basis. I always go to the name tag when we do that, or when I do that. We show our pride and respect for the Disney product and legacy. We emphasize cast training and recognition. We pursue synergies and opportunities. We demonstrate our concern for our environment and our community. We emphasize family entertainment. We protect the public trust in Disney, and we are committed to education. I went back to school at Disney, ended up getting my bachelor's degree in management, and ultimately got my MBA while I was at Disney, to show you how that culture was so focused. I also worked when I was at opening Animal Kingdom in the area of environmentality. We replaced the plastic bubble wrap that was used for when somebody purchased a gift item like a figurine or a snow globe, highly fragile. We replaced it with a recycled paper product called Giami, which had perforations and cuts in it, and when it ran through a machine, it all puffed out and protected the gift item. And not only that, I was able to bring it back to downtown Disney after I moved from the Animal Kingdom back to downtown Disney, because I was able to show that it provided an internal rate of return of over 20%. So this kind of shows you how a company can come together around its culture, its values, and how all this applies to its mission and where it wants to be, and how this means things to individual people. Okay, that was a lot, but we're not done yet. We're going to go over to I want to talk about the PESTLE model. And PESTLE is political, economic, social, technical, legal, environment. It's how you can take everything that you're doing with regard to the strategic context and then say, how does this apply in all these different areas? Well, let me give you an example. After Disney, I was vice president of marketing for a company called Beautiful Views Southeast. We were a distributor for Phantom Screens out of British Columbia, Canada, and at the end of 2007, we were considering renewing our distributorship agreement, or whether or not we were going to start manufacturing our own product. We decided that we had an investor, we were going to manufacture our own product, and in setting up the plant, one of the products that we would be making is a retractable screen that would go on the outside of an existing house rather than being incorporated into the construction of a new custom home. The outside product was all aluminum, and so we needed to coat the aluminum. There's 2 ways to do that. You could coat it with a wet coat, a wet paint, or you could coat it with powder, a powder application. And from an environment standpoint, and from a technology standpoint, from an economic standpoint, and from a political standpoint, it made sense for us, because one of the main concerns when you look at LEED, which is the federal government's approach to green housing, one of the things they're very concerned with is in the manufacture of components for the house about volatile particle emissions. And the emissions that are emitted in a wet paint application are much, much higher compared to in a powder coating situation. Now, the powder coating we ended up putting a budget item in the budget, the planning budget for this manufacturing business, that was $1 million item for the powder coating subplant that sat in the larger plant. But when we ran all the numbers, we ran the IRR on it down the road, and we considered the legal, the environmental, and the political implications. It just made sense. But if we hadn't taken a look and used the pestle model when we were planning out the business, we might have gone with the wet coat because it was by far the less expensive way to go in the short term. But all things considered, we made the decision to go with powder coating for the aluminum. So there's an example of how pestle comes in to be able to discuss the as you look at the strategic context of the organization. Okay, that was a lot of information. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call, 407-267-8600. This is John Reneski. You're going to just absolutely love Strategic Internet Public Relations, SIP, for the fall semester for October of 2017. Boy, that's a mouthful. All right, take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.